Hi guys, once again. Now I'll be discussing the solutions of question number 146 to 150. The same paper AIBMD 2015. Okay, for question number 146, we have to find third Bohr orbit velocity at the third Bohr orbit of helium plus atom. ठीक है? As we know कि velocity of any Bohr orbit is proportional to z by n times v naught, where this v naught is the velocity of the first Bohr orbit of hydrogen atom, and this value we already know, it's nearly 2.2 into 10 raised to 6 meters per second. Okay? For just now just put the values of z and n from this relation, right? As we are using helium plus, that means that the z should be equal to 2, right? Because the helium is the atomic number of helium is 2, and n is the nth Bohr orbit. That means we are using the third Bohr orbit. We can write n as 3. Just put these values, n as 2, n as 3, and z as 2 in this equation. You get the velocity is 2.16 into 10 raised to 6 times 2 by 3. This value will nearly come out to be 1.4 into 10 raised to 6 meters per second. So the option 1 is correct. This was question number 146. Now let's move on to question number 147. There is a diagram given in this question. The current infinitely long wire, I current flows in the infinitely long wire, flows through this semicircular region and then come back through this infinitely long wire. We have to find the field at this point. The directions are given as this as x-axis, this is y-axis, and this is z-axis. Okay, the semicircular portion lies in yz plane, and the straight wires lying in xy plane. We have to find the field, and this radius is given as r. We have to find the field at this point. Let's call this O. Okay. Now we'll fragment this question into 3 parts. First is infinitely long, semi-infinitely long straight wire, and then semicircular portion, and then third portion will be semi-infinitely long wire. Okay. For this portion, the magnetic field will be the current is incoming. So from right hand thumb rule, we can say the direction of current should be in the direction of IL cross B, where L is in the direction of current. So we'll just align our hand towards L and turn our fingers towards O. Okay? Then the direction of magnetic field at O will come out to be in the direction of the thumb, that is in the downward direction. Due to this wire, let's name these points A, B, C, D, E. So magnetic field due to AB, as I explained, is in the downward direction. So the direction is minus K. Now what will be the magnitude of this magnetic field? It's a semi-infinitely long wire. That means the magnitude should be equal to mu naught I upon 4 pi r. Okay. Now let's talk of magnetic field due to A, B, C, D. The circular portion. Okay. In the circular portion, the magnetic field is the direction of magnetic field is given by, if we align our curl of our fingers with the direction of the flow of current, then the direction of thumb gives us the magnetic direction of magnetic field, right? So this is the curl of our fingers which is aligned with the direction of current. So magnetic field should be in the direction of this thumb, that is negative of x-axis, because this is x-axis, this is negative of x-axis. So the direction should be minus I, and the magnitude is, for a semicircular wire, the magnitude is mu naught I upon 4r. Okay, this was BCD. Now magnetic field due to DE, actually no, it's DE. The magnetic field due to DE will be, again it's a semi-infinite long wire. The magnitude should be mu naught I upon 4 pi r, and the direction should be, again we'll apply right hand thumb rule. See, the magnetic field, the current is in this direction, and we'll turn our curl of our fingers towards the R vector. So this will come out to be, see, this is magnetic field, and if we turn our fingers towards it, the magnetic field comes out to be in the direction of the thumb, which is obviously in minus Z axis. So direction should be minus k cap. If we add all these three vectors, we'll get mu naught I upon 4 pi r times 2 minus k minus 2k plus, minus pi along r. Okay? Now, if we take minus 1 common, so this will resemble the option B, option 2 in question number 147. Okay, so the option 2 is correct. This was question number 147. Now let's move on to question number 148. For question number 148, there is a diagram given between, there is a graph given between momentum and wavelength. For a de Broglie, basically momentum and de Broglie wavelength. So de Broglie's relation, as we know, is lambda is equal to h upon p. So we can say that lambda p is equal to h. This implies that lambda p is a constant. Okay. So if we have to draw a graph between p and lambda, we can say this graph resembles a rectangular hyperbola. It's a rectangular hyperbola, so the graph should be p versus lambda. It should be like this. Okay? So the option 1 is correct. For question number 149, okay, for question number 149, we have a parallel plate capacitor which is connected to a battery, okay, of EMF E. So as the battery is disconnected from it and then a dielectric is inserted. First it is charged through a battery of potential V, the capacitance is C. So the charge on this plates of the capacitor should be equal to CV. Okay. After that, this battery is disconnected. Charge is already, this is positively charged and this is negatively charged, and the charge is CV. And now the battery is disconnected and a dielectric, let's say dielectric constant K is inserted inside the capacitor. So what happens? First of all, we'll find how the capacitance changes. C is equal to epsilon naught area by D. Okay. If there was air between the plates of the capacitor, the C should be epsilon naught area by D. If it is filled with a capacitor of capacitance K, now C becomes epsilon naught into K into area by D. That means the C is increased by a factor of K times. Okay? Capacitance increased. Now, let's see how energy changes. Energy is half, okay, it's Q squared upon 2C. We cannot use the formula half CV square as the battery is disconnected, the charge on the system, there is no way the charge is going to decrease or increase. So the charge in this system is constant, and as the capacitance is increased by a factor of K, we can say that energy is decreased by a factor of K because energy is inversely proportional to capacitance because the charge is constant, right? So we can say energy decreases by a factor of K. Again, similarly, if you solve part 2, you'll get the change in energy is equal to half CV squared times 1 by K minus 1. But option 3 clearly is incorrect because it says that the charge on the capacitor is not conserved, which is actually conserved because after the battery is disconnected, there is no way this charge is going to move from this plate to this plate. There is no wire connected from these two plates. So the charge on this plate will always be plus CV, charge on this plate will always be minus CV. So the charge has to be conserved on this capacitor once the battery is removed. Okay, so the option C clearly is incorrect. So we can say option C is the correct answer because we have to find the incorrect statement. So for this question, option C or option 3 is the correct option. Okay, now for question number 150. A fundamental frequency of a closed organ pipe is given as, okay, the length is 20 centimeter. There is a closed organ pipe and the length is given as 20 centimeters. and there is a open organ pipe whose length is unknown. But this closed organ pipe oscillates in fundamental mode, and this open organ pipe oscillates in third overtone, actually second overtone. This is fundamental. So for fundamental frequency of this closed organ pipe, as we know, is 1 by 4 L1. Let's call it L1. Let's call this L2. 4 L1, 1 by 2 L1 times velocity of the sound. Okay? Fundamental frequency, this is the F naught of this closed organ pipe. Oh, sorry. F naught of a closed organ pipe is 1 by 4 L1 into velocity of the sound. F naught of an open organ pipe is 1 by 2 L2 into velocity of the sound. Now it's given the fundamental frequency of this is equal to the second overtone of this. That means the F0 of this is equal to F2 of this. So we can write 1 by 4 L1 into velocity of sound is equal to, since it is a third overtone, we can say it is it's a second overtone, so we can say it's a third harmonic. So third harmonic means 3 times fundamental frequency, that is equal to 3 times 1 by 2 L2 into velocity of the sound. Okay. Now compare this first equation and the third equation. You'll get velocity of the sound gets cancelled. You'll get 1 by 4 L1 is equal to 3 by 2 L2. Okay. Now put the value of L1 as 20 and you'll get L2 as 120 centimeters. Just put the value of L1 as 20 centimeters. You'll get L2 as 120 centimeters. So option 2 is correct for question number 150. Okay, thank you guys for watching question number 146 to 150.